Eli was just 15 years old when he first saw the alien girl. He wasn't a soldier, not a spy, not even supposed to be near the dark markets on the edge of the galaxy. But curiosity was a dangerous thing, and Eli was full of it. He had followed a group of traders from the nearby spaceport, hiding behind broken walls and abandoned ships, moving like a shadow. He didn't know what he was looking for. Until he saw her. The room was cold, lit by green lights hanging from chains, and filled with cages, real cages, with living beings inside them. Some cried, some screamed, some were already too tired to make a sound. Eli's heart raced as he hid behind a metal pillar, watching. Silence. That's when he saw her. At the far end of the room, in the last cage, sat a girl. No, not just a girl, something more. Her skin was a soft blue, glowing faintly under the green lights. Her eyes were silver like liquid metal, and her hair was long and white like snow. She didn't cry or move like the others. She just sat there, quiet, staring at nothing, and then her eyes moved and locked on Eli. His breath caught for a second. The world felt silent, like time had stopped. Then something strange happened. He heard a voice, not out loud, but inside his head. "I see you," the voice whispered, soft and calm. Eli stumbled back in shock, hitting the metal behind him. No one else seemed to notice, but the girl did. She tilted her head, as if curious, as if she was reading him like a book. Eli tried to speak, but no words came out. He took a slow step forward, drawn to her, forgetting the danger. The guards were far at the other end, talking and laughing, not paying attention. Still, Eli kept close to the shadows, heart pounding. The alien girl stood slowly, her chains clinking softly, and then she did something no one else in that room had done. She smiled. It wasn't a big smile, just a small, sad curve of the lips. Then her lips moved, and even though she didn't speak out loud, Eli heard her voice. Again in his mind, "You are too young now," she said, "but one day, you will return." Eli's eyes widened, confused and scared. "Why me?" he asked in his thoughts, not sure if she could hear him, but she nodded. "Because you are not like them," she answered, "and I will be waiting." Suddenly, a loud crash echoed from the front of the room. A guard had dropped something, and Eli froze in place. His eyes snapped back to the cage, but the girl was sitting again. Her eyes closed, like nothing had happened. The connection was gone. Eli ran. He didn't stop until he was far away. Gasping for air, shaking, he told no one about what he saw. Not his family, not his teachers, not even his best friend. Who would believe him anyway? He was just a boy from Earth, a nobody in a galaxy full of powerful species and untouchable rules. But he couldn't forget her. Every night, he dreamed of her silver eyes, that soft voice, those words, "Come back when you're older." Years passed, but the memory stayed sharp. He started training, reading about alien species, learning their languages, studying their wars. The world thought he was strange, obsessed, but Eli knew better. He had made a silent promise that day in the cage-filled room. He didn't know who she was, or why she had spoken to him, but she had trusted him, and that was enough. In a galaxy where humans were weak, where he had no power. That one moment had changed everything. He would come back, stronger, ready. And when he did, he would break that cage forever. Eli tried to forget her, but he couldn't, no matter how many days passed. How many years changed around him. The memory of that alien girl stayed sharp in his mind. Sometimes he thought he imagined it all, that her silver eyes, her glowing skin, and her voice in his mind were just part of a young boy's fantasy. But late at night, when the world was quiet and the stars filled the sky outside his window, her words came back. "Come back when you're older." He was 16 now, taller, stronger, sharper. He joined Earth's Interstellar Academy, not for fame, not for glory, but for answers. Eli pushed himself hard, training longer than anyone, studying alien biology, cultures, history, and especially telepathic species. No one understood his obsession, His classmates called him Starboy and teased him behind his back. Even his instructors thought he was just trying too hard to be a hero, but Eli didn't care. He wasn't doing it for them. He was doing it for her. He didn't even know her name, but he remembered her voice, her message, and the sadness in her smile. During one long study session in the Academy archives, he found something strange. A report marked as restricted, half-burned in corrupted data. It mentioned an illegal auction years ago near the Rim. Territories where rare psychic specimens had been traded in secret. The report had no names, no photos, only one scribbled note in red text. Subject escape status unknown. Eli's heart beat faster. Could that be her? Could she have escaped? Or was she still trapped somewhere, waiting? He tried to access more files, but everything was locked, government-level clearance needed. He stared at the screen for a long time, then whispered to himself, I have to go back. At 17, he entered the exploration program, where cadets were allowed to travel off-world during patrol missions. He volunteered for every route near the Rim, hoping to get closer to the old auction site. It had been abandoned, overrun by pirates, and erased from official maps. But Eli didn't need maps. He had memories. He remembered the cracked stone pillars, the green lights, the smell of oil and blood. His hands trembled when his ship finally landed on a nearby planet, with ruins matching the ones from his childhood. He stepped out, helmet on, heart racing, boots crunching on dry soil. The area was dead, silent, and cold, but something inside him stirred a strange pull, like a string in his chest being tugged forward. He followed it, deeper into the ruins, past broken cages and burned-out chambers. Then he saw it, carved into a rusted wall in a language he didn't know, glowing faintly. In silver light, he scanned it with his device, but the translation failed. Still, he could feel the meaning. You returned. Eli stepped closer, placing his hand on the wall. The metal felt warm, alive. Suddenly, a low humming sound echoed through the ground, and the dust around him shifted. The ruins were not empty. Hidden security systems blinked too. Life and red sensors locked onto him. He had triggered something ancient and dangerous. A voice echoed from the darkness, robotic and sharp. Unauthorized human detected. Leave immediately. But Eli didn't move. He stood tall, fists clenched, eyes locked on the glowing writing. I'm not leaving, he whispered. Not this time. Just then, someone tackled him from behind, another cadet from his crew, shouting into his cum. Are you insane, Eli? This place is off limits. Come on, we need to go. But Eli shook his head. She's here. I know she is. The cadet looked at him like he'd lost his mind. Who? There's no one here. It's just ruins. Eli didn't answer. Instead, he knelt down, brushing dust away from the floor. There were footprints, light, bare, and not human. Fresh ones. He looked up with wide eyes. She's alive, he said. She's still here. His teammate grabbed his arm, panicked. We have to go before the systems fry us both. But before they could move, a sharp sound filled the air, like 1,000 whispers all at once. Then the voice returned, softer now. You've come back. Eli froze, his mouth open, heart pounding like a drum. It's you, he whispered. Looking around, where are you? But there was no answer, only the wind and the feeling of being watched. His friend pulled him again, and this time, Eli allowed it. They ran back to the ship, but Eli looked over his shoulder again and again. He knew she was there, hiding, waiting, but why? Why hadn't she come out? Back in the ship, his hands still trembled. He stared at the stars and made a silent promise. I'm not giving up, he said to the sky. I don't care how long it takes, I'll find you. Because even if the galaxy didn't believe in her, even if no one else remembered her face, Eli did. And he wasn't the boy with no power anymore. He was becoming something else. Something strong. Something determined, and the next time he returned, he would not leave without her. Eli stood at the edge of the landing ramp, his boots touching the cracked soil of a forgotten planet. He was 19 now, stronger, sharper, and no longer alone. Behind him stood two trusted squadmates from his new deep recon unit, Sarah, a quiet tech genius, and Tom, a big man with a kind heart and a heavy blaster. They had followed him because they trusted him, even if they didn't fully understand why he had brought them here. But Eli knew. He remembered every step he had taken here as a boy. Every shadow, every smell, every chilling whisper of wind. This was the place. The black market auction zone from his memory. It looked more ruined now, its metal walls rusted, and broken wires hanging like vines. But underneath the dust and silence, something was still alive. "This place gives me the creeps," Tom muttered, eyes scanning the surroundings. "It should," Eli said softly. "Things were never meant to be sold here." They stepped deeper into the complex, their flashlights cutting through the darkness. Faded signs written in multiple alien languages lined the walls, and broken cages lay scattered like old bones. Sarah's scanner beeped, and she frowned. "Something's still drawing power in the lower levels," she said. "Buried deep, hidden from standard sweeps." Eli's heart skipped. She was still here. He could feel it. He didn't know how, but he felt her like a faint signal pulling him forward. They moved down a narrow staircase, each step creaking under their weight. The air grew colder as they went lower. Lights flickered on by themselves as they entered a long hallway, the walls humming faintly, and at the end of that hallway, Eli saw it. A door made of black glass-like stone with a symbol in the center, two curved lines forming an eye. He reached out to touch it, and the symbol glowed softly. The door slid open with a hiss, revealing a chamber untouched by time. In the center of the room was a single cryopod, covered in dust but still powered. Inside it lay the alien girl, her body unchanged, still graceful, still glowing faintly even in sleep. Eli dropped to his knees, breath shaking. "I found you," he whispered. Sarah's eyes widened, and Tom stepped closer, lifting his blaster. "That's not tech from any species I've ever seen," Tom muttered. Sarah tapped her scanner, frustrated. "No readings, no life signs, no ID. It's like she's invisible to the system." But Eli didn't need tech to know the truth. "She's alive," he said. "I know she is." Suddenly, the room trembled, and a red light blinked from the ceiling. A deep voice echoed through the walls, sharp and emotionless. "Unauthorized access. Prepare for termination," Sarah screamed. And Tom raised his weapon, but Eli ignored them. He stepped forward and placed his hand on the cryopod. The symbol on the lid glowed brighter, and the pod began to open. Steam poured out as the seal broke, and her eyes slowly opened, silver and shining, just as he remembered. For a moment, she looked confused, then her gaze locked onto his. She didn't speak, but he heard her clearly. "You came back." The connection snapped like lightning through his mind, and suddenly he saw pieces of her memories, pain, loneliness, and waiting. So much waiting. The walls around them shook harder, and from above, metal doors slammed shut, sealing the exit. "Trap protocol active," the voice warned. "Eliminate intruders." Small gun turrets dropped from the ceiling, charging to fire. "Down!" Tom yelled, firing at the nearest one. Eli shielded the girl with his body, but before the first turret could shoot, a wave of invisible energy burst out from her body. It spread across the room like a ripple in water. The turrets short-circuited and exploded, sparks flying everywhere. Sarah looked up in shock, blinking through smoke. What was that?" she asked. Eli didn't answer. He just looked at the girl. Her chains were gone, her eyes alert, her body no longer asleep, but she looked tired, like she hadn't fully healed yet. "We need to get her out of here," Eli said, helping her sit up. She looked at him again, this time with something more than surprise in her eyes, something like trust. "They will come for me," she whispered inside his head. "You must be ready." Eli nodded. He had been ready since the day he first saw her. They moved quickly, Sarah guiding the way as she hacked the system to unlock the sealed doors. Tom stayed behind them, watching their backs. But Eli didn't look back. Not this time. He had found her, freed her, and now the real fight was about to begin. They ran through the broken corridors. Lights flickered above them, casting shadows. On every wall, Eli held the alien girl close as she leaned against him, her legs still weak from years of sleep. Her skin was cold, her breath soft, but her eyes, her silver glowing eyes, were wide open. Tom led the front with his blaster ready, and Sierra worked her wrist device, trying to unlock old security doors before the AI sealed them in again. The facility was falling apart, but something deeper had woken up, and it wasn't happy. "We're not alone," Tom said, pausing at a corner. Eli nodded. He could feel it too, not just footsteps or sounds, but a pressure, like the air was watching them. Behind them, a siren howled, then changed tone. "Bioweapon active. Prepare containment," the AI announced in a cold voice. Sarah gasped, looking at the girl. "They weren't keeping her as a prisoner," she said, eyes wide. "They were hiding her like a living weapon." The girl didn't flinch at the words. She simply turned her head and said in Eli's mind, "I was a threat to them, not because of what I did, but what I could do." They entered a storage room, and Tom pushed a metal table against the door, trying to buy time. Sierra scanned the girl, her scanner glitching out again and again. "She's not in any known database," Sierra muttered, frustrated. "Not even a match to any psychic species we've documented." "She told me her name is Kalari," Eli said softly, watching her. "And she said she was waiting for me." Sierra blinked, still trying to process. "So, she's some kind of hidden telepathic alien queen who chose you, a random Earth kid." Eli looked down, then nodded. "I was just a kid when I saw her in that cage," he said. "But she reached out to me, and I couldn't forget her." Kalari looked at him then, her voice entering their minds like a calm wind. "He is not random," she said. "He is rare." Outside the room, a heavy thud echoed, followed by the sound of metal grinding. "Someone's cutting through the door," Tom said, raising his weapon. "We've got maybe 3 minutes." Kalari stood up slowly, her body steadier now, though still weak. Her hand trembled as she raised it, pointing at the door. The metal began to glow red hot, then white. Suddenly, the door melted like wax, slamming to the floor. No one had touched it. Tom stepped back in shock. "What the hell was that?" he said, eyes wide. Kalari spoke calmly. "I told you I was never weak." The hallway beyond was now empty. The attackers gone, either scared off or destroyed before arrival. Sierra swallowed hard. "Okay, let's never doubt her again." They moved again, pushing toward the exit tunnels. As they moved, Kalari spoke more, not with words, but with images, thoughts, and feelings. She showed them her memories. She had not been captured by humans, but by other aliens, ones who feared her kind. She was a royal, yes, but her race had rules. No one was allowed to keep their powers if they refused the bonding ceremony. Kalari had refused. She didn't want to be used as a weapon or controlled by a chosen mate from her people. So they labeled her dangerous, a rogue. They sold her to the black market, hoping she'd disappear. But in that cage, she found Eli, a boy who looked at her without fear, without desire, only with eyes full of questions and kindness. She had chosen him, even then, and now he had returned. So what now? Tom asked as they reached the outer gates. "We just walk out with a living bomb?" "She's not a bomb," Eli said. "She's a person, and we're getting her out." Suddenly, a beam of energy shot from above, hitting the wall beside them. A dropship hovered in the sky, black, unmarked, military grade. "They found us," Sierra shouted, diving behind cover. Soldiers dropped down from the ship, armored and silent, weapons raised. Eli stood in front of Kalari, arms out. "You'll have to go through me first," he shouted. Kalari touched his shoulder, gently moving him aside. Her eyes narrowed, and the air around her shimmered. The soldiers froze mid-step, eyes wide, limbs stiff. One by one, they collapsed, unconscious, weapons falling to the ground. She didn't kill them, just stopped them with a wave of her hand. She summoned a pulse that scrambled the dropships. Controls, the ship sparked and crashed into the nearby cliffside. Flames rising into the sky. Silence followed. Sarah stared at her, mouth open. Tom just shook his head, amazed. "We're definitely not reporting this to command," he muttered. Eli turned to Kalari. "Where do we go now?" he asked. She looked up at the stars and whispered into their minds. "We go home, but not mine. Ours, because from that moment on, they were no longer just rescuers and a prisoner. They were connected, and the real journey had only just begun." The stolen scout ship floated quietly in the dark, far from any star. Inside, the lights were dim, and silence filled the cabin. Eli sat near the observation window, staring out into space. His heart was still beating fast after everything that had happened. Beside him, Kalari sat quietly, her legs crossed, her eyes half closed. She didn't speak, not with words, but he could feel her presence in his mind, like a warm breath or soft wind. They had escaped the ruined facility, but now came the harder part. Understanding what she truly was, Sarah was at the back of the ship, going through stolen data drives, trying to make sense of everything. Tom sat near the weapons locker, cleaning his blaster like always, but even he looked shaken. They had seen Kalari melt walls, freeze mines, drop an entire attack squad without lifting a weapon. That kind of power didn't belong to just anyone, and Eli knew she had been hiding something big. Finally, he broke the silence. "What are you really?" he asked softly. Kalari opened her eyes and looked at him, not coldly, not with pride, but with calm honesty. "I am what they fear," she said in his mind. "But not because I'm evil, only because I'm different." Eli didn't look away. "You're more than a prisoner," he said. "You were something important." She gave a small nod. "I was born into the royal family of the Silari," she explained. "We are mind weavers, memory shapers, empaths and guardians. My people believe in balance, in bonding with one another to control our powers," she continued. "At age 15, each of us must accept a mate, chosen by the elder someone to anchor our minds." Eli leaned forward, listening closely. "But you didn't choose that," he said. "No," she replied. "I refused to be bound to someone I did not love, someone who only wanted my power, not my soul." Her hands rested in her lap, fingers gently twitching. As she remembered, "They called me unstable, dangerous, rebellious," she continued. "So they exiled me, and eventually sold me." Eli felt anger rise in his chest. "They treated you like a weapon, not a person," he said. Kalari's silver eyes softened as she looked at him. "That's what many across the stars do to those they don't understand." Sira stepped into the room, holding a small data pad. Her face was pale, her voice low. "She's telling the truth," Sira said, handing the pad to Eli. "I found old records buried in encryption, classified, wiped from public archives." Eli scrolled through the file, his eyes scanning each line. Subject K5, potential Omega-class biomind entity. Powers unmeasured. Status not to be returned to Solari Empire. Too dangerous. "They erased her," Eli whispered. "No," Kalari said. "They tried. But I'm still here." Tom stepped forward, crossing his arms. "So what now? We've got half the galaxy wanting her dead. And if her own people find out she's awake, won't they send an army?" Kalari stood up slowly, and for the first time since waking, there was fire in her voice. "Let them come," she said, her voice echoing inside all their minds. "I'm not the scared girl they left behind in chains." Sarah stepped closer, lowering her voice. "We need a plan, Eli," she said. "We can't just run forever." Eli turned to Kalari. "Is there anyone out there who would help us? Someone who knows what really happened?" She paused, thinking, then nodded slowly. "There is a world, hidden in the Halian Veil," she said. "A refuge for exiles and broken minds, ruled by an old Solari sage who opposed the Empire's laws. He might help us," she added. "If we can reach him." Eli looked to Sira and Tom. They both nodded, ready to follow him again. He turned to the nav console, typing in the new coordinates. The path would take them through pirate territory and dark zones, with no rescue signals. But Eli didn't care. He'd made a promise years ago, as a boy, standing in the shadows of a dirty auction house. And now that promise had become his purpose. "Set course for the Hylian Vale," he said. The ship rumbled softly as the engines powered up. Kelari stepped beside him, her hand brushing his for a moment. Their minds touched, not just voices, but feelings. He felt her fear, her hope, her loneliness, her strength. And she felt his courage, his memory of her smile. The reason he never gave up. The bond between them grew stronger, not forced. Not artificial, but chosen. Sarah smiled softly in the background. Tom gave a low whistle. "Well, guess we're helping a runaway Mind Queen start a new chapter," he said with a grin. The stars outside began to blur as the ship entered faster than light travel. And Kelari whispered softly, "You didn't just return, Eli. You woke something in me that even I thought was dead." Eli smiled back. "Then let's keep it alive." The stars flew by like silver streaks as the stolen ship traveled through hyperspace. Inside, everything was quiet, but no one truly felt safe. Sarah kept checking the scanners. Tom polished his blaster for the third time. And Eli stood beside the navigation console, watching the maps slowly update. Kelari sat in silence, her fingers touching the cold glass of the observation window. But her mind was far away, reaching out, listening for dangers only she could sense. "We're 2 jumps from the Hylian Vale," Sarah said. "If we're lucky, no one followed us." Kelari turned her head slowly, her silver eyes dim. "Luck will not save us," she said softly. "They've already found us," before Sarah could ask what she meant. The ship jolted violently, red lights blinked, sirens wailed, and the screens flashed with an emergency alert. "Incoming vessels, closing fast." Tom shouted, jumping into the gunner seat. Sarah checked the readout, her eyes widening. 3 ships, unknown class, unmarked, definitely bounty hunters. Eli didn't speak. He just gripped the controls, trying to steer them through the asteroid. Field ahead, the ship rocked as laser fire streaked past them, one blast hitting their rear shields. Shields down to 75. Sarah yelled. Kelari closed her eyes and breathed deeply. Inside her mind, she reached out, not to fight, but to feel. She touched the minds of the attackers, searching, learning. "They've been paid to take me alive," she said calmly, "but they will kill you if you get in their way." Eli gritted his teeth. "Then we won't let them." He pulled the ship into a hard turn, dodging another blast as they dove between spinning rocks. The bounty hunters followed close behind, firing again. Tom returned fire. One shot smashing into the wing of a chasing fighter. "Got one," he shouted, but another enemy ship zipped closer, its weapons locking onto them. "Brace!" Sarah screamed. Before the shot landed, Kelari stood and lifted her hand. A soft glow formed around her fingers, and she whispered into the air, "Sleep." A second later, the enemy ship drifted sideways, completely powered down. "What did you do?" Tom asked, staring at her in shock. "I made the pilot forget how to fly," Kelari replied, her voice quiet but firm. Eli focused on the last ship, dodging its attacks as they neared the exit point of the field. Kelari touched his shoulder, and he felt her power flow into him, not controlling him, but guiding. He saw the enemy's next move before it happened. He turned the ship sharply and launched a flare. Just as the enemy fired, the blast missed by inches, and Tom's return shot hit the target dead on. The last hunter exploded into flames, drifting away into space. Silence returned, broken only by the ship's damaged engine humming weakly. Sarah sighed with relief, falling back into her seat. "That was too close," she said, wiping sweat from her forehead. Ayla slowed the ship and checked the nav again. "1 jump left to the Hylian Vale," he said. "We can make it." Kelari looked at the damage, then at the crew who had risked everything for her. She felt guilt, deep and sharp. "They won't stop," she said. There are more coming, and the reward grows. Every hour I remain free. Tom crossed his arms. Let them come, he said. You're not alone anymore. Kalari's eyes met Eli's. He didn't say anything, but she could feel it in his heart. He wasn't going to leave her, no matter what came next. As the ship prepared for the final jump, Kalari walked to the front and placed her hand on the main console. Energy flowed from her into the ship, strengthening its shields and stabilizing the systems. That's new, Sura said, amazed. I've only just begun to remember what I can do, Kalari answered. They jumped through hyperspace once more, the stars bending around them, but this time Kalari didn't rest. She reached out across space, sending a silent message ahead to the exile sage she once trusted, to the only one who might give them safety. When they came out of hyperspace, the Hylian veil was ahead, a cluster of hidden worlds wrapped in glowing mists protected by ancient codes and forgotten technology. Eli stared at it in awe. It's beautiful, he whispered. Kalari nodded. It's where the unwanted go to find peace or war. Suddenly, an old voice echoed in her mind. You have returned, daughter of the broken line. She smiled softly. He heard me. Eli touched her arm. Who is he? Kalari looked toward the veil and said, The one who once tried to save me. Now we must ask him to save all of us. The ship slowly entered the Hylian veil. Colorful mists curled around them like ribbons of smoke, glowing softly in blue and green. No map showed this place. No official system marked it, but Kalari remembered it clearly, even after all those years in chains. It had once been her last hope, and now it was her only one. Welcome, child of exile. A deep voice spoke over the combs, ancient and calm. You have brought others. Are they willing to face the truth? Kalari glanced at Eli, Sura, and Tom. Eli didn't hesitate. We didn't come this far to turn back now, he said. The voice paused for a moment, then replied, Then land and be judged. The ship followed an invisible path through the mists. Soon, a hidden station appeared, carved into a massive asteroid floating inside the veil. It wasn't fancy like other planets. It was quiet, natural, and glowing with soft energy. They landed gently, and the doors opened to warm air and silence. An old Solari elder stood waiting at the entrance, his silver robes flowing, his face marked with long scars. His name was Thaler. He had once stood against the royal council that exiled Kalari, and paid the price with pain and exile. Now he looked at her with sad eyes. So, you survived, he said, his voice like wind over stone. Barely, Kalari answered, stepping forward. And you brought a human, Thaler said, narrowing his eyes at Eli. He brought me, Kalari said, her voice strong. I would still be in stasis without him. Thaler studied Eli, then nodded slowly. Courage is not rare, he said, but loyalty, even without power, that is special. He motioned for them to follow. They walked through glowing halls, the walls covered in ancient Solari writing. As they walked, Kalari explained what had happened, her powers returning. The bounty hunters, the messages from her people. Thaler listened quietly, then stopped at a round chamber filled with energy crystals. There is something you must see, he said, tapping a panel. A projection appeared in the air, showing the Solari High Council in a meeting. They were arguing, loud and angry. She must be brought back. One said, before she becomes a threat to every system. She already is, said another. She bonded with a human. Her power is now unpredictable. Kalari stepped back, shocked. They know, she whispered. They felt the bond. Eli frowned. What does that mean? What bond? Thaler turned to him, serious and slow. When a Solari chooses someone, not through ceremony, but through the heart, a bond is formed. Deep and eternal. It connects their minds, feelings, even fate. Eli looked at Kalari, surprised but not afraid. You chose me? He asked softly. She nodded. The moment you saw me as more than a prisoner, I began to feel it, she said. And when you came back for me, I knew. Thaler looked between them, then said, "You have two choices now. Either break the bond, erase her powers, and live quietly under the Council's rule. Or escape again, go into hiding, but always hunted." Silence filled the room. Syrah and Tom said nothing, knowing this choice wasn't theirs. Eli looked at Kalari, her eyes shining, filled with questions and hope. Then he smiled. "You waited for me," he said. "And now I'm choosing you." Kalari blinked, her voice trembling in his mind. "Even if the whole galaxy turns against us?" He stepped closer and gently held her hand. "Then we'll face it together." Thaler sighed deeply, but there was a small smile on his face. "Then I will help you one last time," he said. He gave them a data crystal with new coordinates, a place even the Solari couldn't reach, hidden in deep space. He activated an old stealth ship for them, one without tracking codes, as they prepared to leave. Thaler gave Kalari one final message. "You are no longer a weapon, nor a prisoner." He said, "You are free, and the bond you carry will shape what comes next." They left the veil behind, moving once more into the stars. Not as fugitives, not as soldiers, but as something new, something strong, something chosen. In the ship, Eli and Kalari sat side by side, hands touching. Their journey wasn't over, but they were no longer lost. She whispered in his mind one last time, "You came back for me, Eli. And now I will never leave your side."